Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Lenard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Hello, everyone. This is going to be a quick cheat intro segment. I'm going to be lazy. I've got so many guest recordings built up. I'm going to get lazy and cheat on some Saturdays. I don't have to dream up a monologue topic this way. And I'm also not going to say what guest will be appearing because I'm going to be lazy and cheat and use this same intro several Saturdays to intro a guest show. So as Graham Norton used to say, let's get on with the show. Surprise interview. Take care, God bless.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Constitutionalist Politics podcast. Although, if you see behind the scenes, you could see the backdrop. We dropped the word politics, but politics is still implied in the fact that Christian, Judeo-Christian ethos foundation's constitution, right? So it's still implied. At any rate, that's off the beaten path already. Welcome. My guest today, Douglas William Ell, right? Can I call you Doug?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, please. Hi. Glad to be here.
Like the old video game, Dig Dug. Speaking up of digging up old things like an old video game, that's why you're here. The science of archaeology proving biblical reality. Absolutely, positively, I know Pastor Richard Clark Dietering used to be host of A Moment of Clarity on Wham Radio here in Michigan. He had a side effect from one of the jabs, myocarditis, so he's retired now, but he still delves in archaeology to a little bit of a degree. So when I saw your bio said that, I definitely want to talk to this guy. I don't want to talk to my friend Richard. I've talked to him enough. So welcome to the show, Doug Ell. First, let's start with the usual kind of background stuff, right? Where were you born? Where were you raised? Where are you now? How much time in prison did you spend for what crime? All that, that good stuff.
Hey, appreciate the soft lead in. Yeah. So I grew up in Connecticut in a Christian family. But when I got to high school, I considered myself an atheist because I thought that science was against God. And I was fed a bunch of nonsense about life could have started by chance, some stuff about life was an accidental byproduct of a dirty pond.
Yeah.
Did you ever see that?
I love that. It takes more of a leap of faith to believe everything came from nothing than it does that it was created. God can explain the Big Bang. The Big Bang can't explain God.
Well, there's even you ever watch that Disney movie Fantasia?
Oh, yes, of course.
So there's a scene in the movie, and it's been a while since the last time I saw it, but Stravinsky's Rite of Spring, where I think a lightning hits a pond and life starts. Okay, so it's a bunch of BS to use a fairly acceptable term.
Where did the pond come from? Where did the lightning come from? Right? Yeah.
So anyhow, I swallowed that nonsense, and I was really nerdy growing up. I mean, I'm nerdy now, but I was really nerdy. I always felt if you looked at the definition of the word nerd and if you looked it up in the dictionary, they should have had my picture because that was me in high school. And I went to MIT, double majored in math and physics, graduated early, studied theoretical math. Anyhow, to speed this up a little bit, I took a wrong turn and became a lawyer, but hey, nobody's perfect, right?
Oh, yeah. We'll try to not hold that against you.
Yeah, I appreciate this being an open program, right? All kinds of people, even lawyers. So my son was born, and my wife said we should get the kid baptized. Now, me being a devoted card-carrying atheist, I immediately said, yes, dear. I mean, who needs that fight, right? So we went to get the kid baptized, and I tell you, I felt something in that church. I mean, those people had a peace and a serenity, and I was hitting the material it's pretty good, the money and the career and all that kind of nonsense.
Things that we think will be fulfilling, but ultimately still leave you empty. Yes.
Right. Absolutely. You said that perfectly. I mean, and these people had something I didn't have, so I wanted it. But I told myself, well, Doug, you like to think you're a smart guy, so you can't believe in this fairy tale God stuff unless there's scientific evidence for it. And that started me on a journey. It's been 40 plus years, and it's been the most amazing roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
You can imagine. What I have found is just there's so much out there that not only disproves, but just totally destroys this nonsense that you can get something from nothing. That's laws of physics. But the more obvious one is you can't get the technology by accident. Nobody's ever seen technology arise by accident. Okay. And the most advanced technology in the universe is in our bodies. Those are two indisputable facts we can go into if you want. So,
yeah. Oh, I just got in right in the winter. Did you make the snowman up front? No. It just miraculously all accumulated into a shape of a snowman from the falling nothingness. Yeah. And then the other thing is, you mentioned lawyer. I missed the chance. I could never pass the chance on puns. It reminds me of the Jim Carrey movie Liar, Liar. Were you a lawyer or a liar? Or are they not really a lot of the times one and the same? And then the other thing is, your story is nowhere close to the same as Lee Strobel, but do you remember the I was it a New York Times
I read his
guy?
books and
I
watched his movie
Christ.
and
yeah,
his problem was with the resurrection, so he did a historical dig into it and became utterly convinced. Certainly, the resurrection was a real event. I mean, it changed history more than any other event on the planet by far. 2, it's all over the Roman records if you really want to look at it. And 3, this nonsense that people made up the story. Do you know what they did to you if they caught you believing in the story?
Right.
I mean,
they strung you up also. And since you mentioned that you saw Lee Strobel's the movie The Case for Christ, based on Lee Strobel's true story, one of my favorite Christian movies is a film called Risen. There's also a sci-fi movie by the same name. I'm talking about the Christian one, Risen, which is through the eyes of a Roman soldier that was there. And indeed, where'd the body go? And he's taxed with, prove that they stole the body. No. And in the end of the film, he's a believer too, because he was there. He lived it. As you said, the Roman record makes it clear. It's like, again, something doesn't come from nothing, and the nothing can't just completely disappear without evidence unless if there's indeed the real resurrection, and the whole argument over the Shroud of Turin, having tested parts that may have been a patch, and science isn't perfect either. The whole notion of our carbon dating of things, I think we can at times get in the ballpark, but I also think we can be fooled, because real carbon dating can only be known if all the time periods throughout that, the known carbon levels and everything going on is a known factual quantity. And even with, going back to the ice cores and stuff, I think we derive a lot of information, but we're still guessing. It's still scientific theory. It can't be proven unless if we make a time machine and can go back and see it for ourselves.
Well, you raised a lot of great issues. I mean, I'm convinced the Shroud of Turin is real. There's absolutely no doubt about it in my mind. I mean, they put some material got thrown on it in the Middle Ages, and when they tested it, they said, "Gee, it's a Middle Ages fake." But there's other material on it that goes back originally. It contains seeds hidden within the fabrics that were only present in the
fibers,
Middle East at that time.
And yes, exactly. You and I are here. Again, God can explain science because God created all the laws of science. Science cannot explain and especially cannot dismiss God. And that's not getting into the whole aliens thing, because I've got a whole episode, right? Genesis does not say, and God created life on earth, and only on earth created life he. It doesn't say that. It doesn't preclude other life, other places. In fact, the Nephilim are mentioned in there. How do you explain that? Where was I going? Oh, the angels. The archangels are both part physical and spiritual, and they predated Terra, the earth, the creation of the earth. They were at God's side when the earth was created. De facto, that makes them extraterrestrial by definition. Yes?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, yes, I think there are angels, there are demons, and which are fallen angels. I mean, God created them, and the Bible is absolutely right on that. Have you ever read any of the stories of exorcists? I don't remember the name of the book offhand, but these stories will make the hair stand up on your head. I don't have as many hairs these days, but the stories are amazing.
See, I've got none left. I had leukemia in 2010, and once the hair came out, I decided I'm going to save a ton on shampoo and conditioner and just shave it, right? But yeah, I don't read them. I don't see those movies. I understand it. I believe there are cases of it. I believe there are fraudulent cases too, because people can make money on it. But there are real cases all through time. And indeed, I don't read them. I don't see the movies because it scares the bejesus out of me.
Very scary. Can we go back to your carbon dating?
Please, by all means. You're here to talk science. Yes.
Well, let's start with that. A lot of people think carbon dating disproves the Bible. And now, carbon dating, let's say you walk into a bathroom and it's got a tub, and you instantly know, don't ask me how, but you know that the tub has 30 gallons of water in it, and the water is flowing in at the rate of 5 gallons a minute. Okay? So most people would immediately do the math and say, well, so I ask, how long's the faucet been on? Most people are immediately going to say, well, 30 gallons, 5 gallons a minute. It's been on for 6 minutes, right? That's how they do carbon dating. But now let's look at that. There's assumptions in there, okay? First of all, how do you know the tub was empty?
Assumptions. Yeah, assumptions. Exactly.
How do you know you started with an empty tub? How do you know that the water didn't, has been constant the same time? And how do you know there isn't a drain or some sort of leak at the bottom of the tub? You can get any answer you want out of carbon dating by changing those assumptions. And that's basically the mathematics is a little bit different because it's exponential, but it's the same concept. Now let's look at what scientists have found about carbon dating.
I love how you explained that. That was the most commonsensical, reasoned thought, yet basic level of understandable discussion on that topic I've ever heard.
Thank you. And it's the same with the radiometric, the radioactivity dating. But let's stick with carbon dating. Now let's look at some scientific facts. Okay, all carbon dating, it's based on half-lives. Every 5,800 years, you'll lose half of your carbon-14.
But those aren't perfect either, right?
Now, it's very clear that after 50,000 years, and certainly after 100,000 years, no doubt about it, there is no detector on Earth that could measure any carbon-14 in anything over 100,000 years, okay? So people dig up dinosaur bones, dinosaur fossils, all of them have carbon-14 in them. And some of the, and don't tell me it was all, some groundwater contamination. That makes no sense in the variety of facilities. Let's look at diamonds. Diamonds are supposed to be billions of years old. All diamonds contain carbon-14. Now, diamond is pretty hard substance. So don't tell me the water's leaking into it. I mean, it's pretty hard to get inside a diamond, okay? I could give you a lot of other examples, but the point is, if you really look at the science and not the assumptions and the pictures people give you, and that's just one little area. But, there's so much there. Can I go back to life? Because I think this is the...
Well, before you do that, I've got to ask you a crazy question, because one of my most popular shows, the two most popular shows I have in my 3 years of doing this, are both attached to science in some way. My overall, without question, #1 show is I had on Flat Earth Dave. Is the Earth flat or round?
Of course, the Earth is round. You can see the shadow on the moon sometimes. Come on. That's been known from the beginning of
he
history.
Was a great guest, though. If you get the chance to watch, you got to watch it on video because he presents some things that you got to see that, don't translate real well over to the 25 plus audio platforms I'm on. But if you get a chance to see that, he was a great guest. I gave him as much rope as he wanted to hang himself with, and it was a blast. It was a great show. I loved having him. I'd love to have him back. But yeah, as a Christian show, my second most popular show was one called "What Color is the Sky Really?" And if your answer is blue, you're indoctrinated. It appears blue at times because of the reflective nature of our waters. Sometimes it looks green if it's storming. Sometimes it looks orange. Sometimes you look up at night, it looks black, but it's not black either. The real answer is the sky is opaque. You look up at night, you see nothingness. You see blackness, the absence and the devoid of all light. But look up during the day from Mars, you're going to see a red sky, not a blue sky. So the answer is opaque. So I'm willing to bet this will probably, Dealing in Science, be my third most popular show in no time. So back to life.
All right, back to life. So let's look at how life works. Very simple terms. And then let's look at this nonsense that I call the Darwinian delusion, which all the top biologists know doesn't work now, but you don't read that in the newspaper. But let's look at how life works. So the biggest discovery, certainly in biology in the last 100 years, and probably ever, is that life works off digital code. Okay? And it's called DNA. Everybody's heard of DNA. DNA is a code with 4 groups of atoms. Okay, now code, well, you and I are talking to each other over digital code right now.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm a former IT guy. Yeah. I'm into science and indeed code, and indeed AI is both good, bad, and ugly, right? Because it is just code, garbage in, garbage out. It's only as good as we humans have coded it, allowed it to be.
So we've got code. Every living thing's got code. It's got the DNA. All right. And by the way, another example of code is every system of writing ever developed is digital code. Okay. Every language, from hieroglyphics to English letters and whatever. All right. So we have code within us. Human beings have 3.2 billion with a B letters of this DNA code, and almost every one of our maybe 30 trillion with a T cells. I mean, fantastic numbers that point to God. Now, let's fast forward from the discovery of DNA to 1953 to 2011, when 400 of the world's top scientists worldwide released the first results from something called the ENCODE project, ENCODE project, a project to decode the human DNA, the human genome, okay? So this is published 30 papers, major papers, groundbreaking papers worldwide. What did they tell us? 400 top scientists, okay? Nobody's ever disputed these conclusions. First of all, the code is pretty much fully functional. It's not garbage junk DNA like you might read in some old textbooks or whatever, okay? We don't know what all of it does, but it is fully functional. And by the way, Bill Gates basically said something like, DNA is like computer code, only it's far, far more advanced than anything human beings have ever built. Okay, so now we'll go back to these 400 scientists. They also tell us that the code contains at least 2 different layers of information. In other words, there's code within code. All right, and here's another fact.
And there's redundancy for when things go wrong to a degree.
It's fantastic. And they found, for example, and this was on the front page of the New York Times, that we human beings have in our DNA code, we have 4 million switches that turn things on and off. I mean, there's a heck of a lot of design inside our body. Okay? So you cannot get even a decent stretch of working code by chance. Okay? Try writing down 100 random spaces and letters and see if they make any sort of English sentence. The odds that they do are about
the old Darwinian notion of eventually, if you sit down 1 million monkeys at typewriters, you'll get Shakespeare out of it. No.
No. And actually, I have a book out, my new book. It's a graphic novel because I've aimed it at a younger audience, but it's called The God Proofs. That makes fun of that idea. The odds of getting 100 English spaces and letters to make any sort of sense and have any sort of grammatical correction are like picking a marble out of a pile the size of the universe.
Yeah. And it's also, like I said, a former IT guy, like assembly code, zeros and ones, binary language code. The chance that you randomly throw zeros and ones together and could ever get anything functional out of it is impossible. Now, you said something important. You keep saying design, right? intelligent design. And I love, I forget his name, the guy that played the teacher in Bueller, right? Yep, Bueller. You remember the guy I'm talking about who did Expelled, No Intelligence Allowed, right?
Yeah.
Intelligent design. How the complexities of an eye to be able to develop and use sight, the muscles, the nerves, the complexity of the odds of that randomly evolving by chance are nil. They're just, slim to none, and none has waved goodbye and already on the way out the building, right? But I dare say, as science, there is such a thing, micro versus macro. We as humans are starting to live longer. That's a micro evolution, but to go from chimps to human macro evolution is nonsense. Now we are living longer because why? Even though our diets are horrible now, they're infinitely better than what they were 200 years ago. And our modern medicine.
Let me respond, if I could, to that, because there's a lot of good points in there. On microevolution, evolution the word evolve just means change. And the word evolution technically just means change over time. So everything, quote, evolves. There's a lot of evolution going on. But this idea that things are getting better is mathematically ridiculous. And let me give you an example. But first, we're living longer mostly because of the discovery of antibiotics.
Penicillin.
Okay, and we're getting better diet.
Yeah, aspirin and
we're getting better health, and not too many of us are working in coal mines these days. Okay, so but human beings are not getting smarter, and this is one of the, I think,
it's
incredible
like
conceits of
the joke. Our phones are getting smarter, and people are getting progressively dumber.
Right. So let's go back to my 3.2 billion letters of code. Okay. So if you imagine a really thick book with thin pages and two columns on each page. Okay. And then put 1,000 of them on top of each other. That's about 3.2 billion letters, maybe. Now, every generation, there's about 100 mistakes in the code. Okay, and I've gone over this with a top Harvard chemist, and he agrees. Every generation, but now, so it's like you have 1,000 of those books, and you put 100 typos into them. Every generation. Now, there's a lot of redundancy, and we're pretty fancy designed, so that doesn't mean that we collapse. But if you keep doing this, it's just common sense that the book is not going to get better. Okay, and there is actually a very powerful computer program that simulates all these changes and mutations and shows that this, it's called Mendel's accountant, if you want to look it up. Mendel was a geneticist. And none of the computer simulations get better. It's all going downhill. When you add typos to a book, the book does not get better. You can assume much as you want about throwing away bad copies, but the book's not going to get better. Okay. So,
today, of course, they don't want to throw away. They literally want to burn them and ban them. We're back to Nazi. We're back to Nazi Germany. Science isn't science. It's all pseudoscience, bought and paid for on manipulated data.
It's just incredible. So you have these are known facts. Okay, and the Darwinists are shaking their head. Where did all this information come from that it takes to build a human being? I mean, so you're a tech guy. You've heard of 3D printers, right? You put code in them, pieces pop out. Okay, we have trillions of 3D printers in our bodies.
Still takes a design to tell the printer what to manufacture.
So where did these fantastic 3D printers come from? Okay, and they, there's a section of the code called a gene that tells the 3D printer to build a part, which is called a protein, simplifying a little bit. Okay, and then there's very complicated software that the switches that say, now we need the new part. Here's how you put the parts together. Here's how you turn them on and off. It is complex beyond words. Where did all this information come from? So now let's look at the origin of life, if I could. And, going back to my silly scene in Fantasia, where the lightning strikes and suddenly there's life in the dirty pond.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, yeah, that might have been, yeah, it's crazy.
Stick with your emotion. Don't allow any thinking to be involved. Right.
So what do you have to have life? You have to have digital code in exactly the right order. And that's impossible. You have to have machines that can read the code. You have to have machines that can copy the code. And you have to have these 3D printers. You have to have all of that and a lot much more, like, the mitochondria that is the energy factories in our cells, and so much more. But, all of that has to be present right from the beginning. You can't say, oh, well, some of it came up in this dirty pond and some of it was in that dirty pond and somebody stirred it all together and, suddenly, Frankenstein came out of the pond. I mean, it's such nonsense that even the simplest life has fantastically complicated code. So when it was the mathematics of getting code by chance, as a guy who majored in math and studied math for 3 years in graduate school, it just hit me immediately. Yeah. You can't get this code by chance. Yeah. There's design. And then when you look beyond it into the laws of physics, I don't know if you've gotten into that on a program, but the universe is designed for life to exist. If you look at the constants of physics, it's beyond
and that's
belief.
The other argument for life elsewhere. It's too unbelievable that to buy a Darwinist argument, that it would have only potentially accidentally primordial souped itself here is just silly. We could talk for 6 hours, 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months. There's no way in hell that exists. We could cover it all, but time is flying by, and we haven't really got into archaeology, like discovering we think we found Sodom and Gomorrah. We think we found this. Yeah. We think we found that. They still insist they think they still found the place of Noah's Ark resting place, but yet a lot of the governments, like Erdogan, being Islamic fundamentalist, doesn't want anybody at those places to prove it. Archaeology, though, is proving aspects of the Bible as a real telling of history, not allegorical nonsense, children's nursery rhyme stories. Yes?
Absolutely. Let me share with you what I consider the major archaeological discovery supporting the Bible, and one of the major ones ever. And I discussed this with Scott Sterpling, who you may know, an incredibly talented archaeologist. So he leads expedition to Israel, and he found on a hill, exactly where the Bible predicted it, something called a curse tablet. I don't know if you're familiar with this. Now, what's a curse tablet? Well, if you read, I think it's in the book of Kings, maybe First King, not sure. When Joshua goes into the promised land, God says, put blessings on one mountain and curses on the other. Okay, sounds a little weird, but hey, I don't tell God what to do. He doesn't tell me why. So,
right, we are but children. It kills me about people in the Bible too, that the whole, again, back to aliens. Well, the Bible doesn't specifically say, again, Genesis doesn't say God created life on earth and on earth life and there's the whole Nephilim. Exclusion or preclusion does not mean exclusion. We are but children. to what God is. You don't give a 4-year-old War and Peace. You give them Dr. Seuss. We are but children. There are more testaments yet to come when we will be ready to handle them.
Absolutely. I mean, so people used to think that, so Joshua was doing this about 1400 years before Christ. Okay. He's conquering, and by the way, they know where the Jews lived in Egypt, and so on. So he gets to, so Bible says do this. So Scott Sterpling and his team, supported by Associates for Biblical Research, they have this magazine, Bible and Spade, which I would highly recommend. If you don't subscribe to it, get Bible and Spade. The biblical archaeology is fantastic. Anyhow, Scott Sterpling's team finds on a hill a curse tablet. It's a piece of folded lead, maybe an inch square. I'm not sure exactly, but it takes them 2-3 years to read the tablet because you just can't bend it open. All right. They've got to do this incredible X-ray computer analysis to figure out what's on the inside.
Modern technology. We, again, with all our modern technology, are only scratching the surface because, as you like with the Dead Sea Scrolls, now imaging, being able to image and X-ray and all kinds of X-rays, gamma rays, this ray, that ray, to penetrate all the levels of these things, because as you said, they're too fragile to unroll, but we're able to now understand more of them through our technology. Please continue your story. I know
Absolutely.
Exactly what you're talking about here.
Yeah, and so it takes them like 3 years, and they find inside this tablet curses. Okay, and the so-called secular geniuses would tell you that the Hebrews didn't even know how to write at that time. Hello. That Moses couldn't have wrote the book of the Bible because he didn't know how to write. What nonsense. And it also contains in the tablet, I think 3 times, the word Yahweh, which is that's the name God gives to Moses on the mountain, which means I am. And to me, the closest translation of Yahweh is when God's asked for his name, he's saying, I am existence. Okay, and that's powerful, that's profound. So now you have archaeological evidence that Joshua planted on the mountain, just like it says in the Bible, a curse tablet.
That's just coincidental randomness.
Yeah, I know, and yeah, it's coincidental randomness. I mean, you have to have a lot of faith. That's what they'll argue,
of course, but it is way beyond all these things they dismiss as somehow coincidence or randomness. The statistical odds, the people who claim to be science, but yet refute the mathematics of the statistical odds of it happening coincidentally and randomly, they completely ignore.
Yeah, I mean, that's one. I mean, you may know they figured out where Sodom was, and they found fused glass. Something pretty powerful struck it and wiped it out.
Yeah, they blame that on an earlier nuclear blast, right? As if,
yeah. I mean, and so there's the science, there's the archaeology. It's all coming together. Okay, it actually has come together. It's just you got to look at it, and you got to look at it with an open mind.
Right. Well, we're going back to Copernicus time. I can picture Sir Isaac Newton. I mean, biblical scholars engaging in science then. Imagine where we've come now compared to their days. And imagine, at times I wish I don't want to live to 100, but there are other times I wish I could live to 250, right? I wish I could be put into a cryogenic chamber and awakened 100 years from now, because it's like the Bill Mallard song, right? I can only imagine what it'll be like when I go to heaven and actually, will I fall? Whatever. Right, the Mercy Me song, I can only imagine. I can't imagine what we will know 100, 250 years from now if we keep up the trueness to understanding both how Bible and science indeed come together. They don't drive apart.
Absolutely. Science is, if you look at it correctly and with an open mind and look at the facts, science proves to me the existence of a designer, both in the universe and in every kind of life. And, let's talk about where science came from. Because as much as we like to think that it was all, a bunch of white dudes in Europe were the smartest people on the earth, let's be a little honest, okay? There have been smart people all over the planet since the beginning of time.
Algebra didn't come from the white guys.
No, I mean, the Chinese were so far ahead of Europeans in so many ways. They discovered the Americas before Columbus did, but then when they got back with this huge fleet, the next emperor didn't like it, so he just told them to destroy all the records. The point is, we have science, I would argue, and I didn't make this up, believe me, there's a lot of smart people believe this is true. We have science because of Jesus Christ. It's the belief that the universe is rational that made these great scientists, Galileo, Newton, Kepler, whatever, want to know how God did it. And that's the basis for the scientific revolution. And it got twisted into this concept that suddenly you don't need God. And there's no basis for that. There's no explanation for why anything exists without God.
To your discussion about the discovering of America, it had been rediscovered several times. It's not like it wasn't ever there. I mean, we've got maps that are 1,500 years old, go back before Columbus, and they're maps of all the continents, including the Antarctic continent as a green continent, as a navigable continent. Those aren't just science fiction things that didn't exist. They've existed, but some modern scientists, so wrapped in my theory has to be right, have to ignore all that evidence.
Absolutely. There are maps that show the coastline of Antarctica, okay, which we didn't know until recently because it's hidden under all that ice today. So they had to have mapped it shortly after the flood, within a couple hundred years, before the ice caps formed. Only Noah's flood explains how you get ice sheets 2 miles high. You need hot oceans, okay, all over the world, and you need volcanic ash. So the oceans are getting
volcanic ash causing a form of a nuclear winter that can freeze.
Yeah, a nuclear winter that lasts for centuries.
Yeah.
Okay, so you get ice that's 2 miles thick. There's no other explanation. There is no secular explanation for how you get these ice. And they've come up with these weird theory that maybe the earth wobbles a little bit. I mean, that's ridiculous. There's so much that actually, when you look at it, supports the Bible. I think we live in a wondrous time because we now have the ability to challenge this nonsense that things can come about by chance. Yeah. And we have all these wonderful facts, like you say. As
I said,
just wonderful.
We could talk 6 hours, 6 days, 6 months. We would never go through it all. But I do want to wrap it up because the longer the show, the fewer the viewers. I call it today's Twitter attention span, right? Everybody wants the Cliff Notes version. Do you have... Now, obviously, we want people to check out the graphic novel, God Proofs. adult or children alike. But do you have a website that you could point us to?
I do. Thank you. It's the title of my first book, Counting to God, countingtogod.com. And I have a website and I post blogs. I don't do it regularly, but half a dozen, maybe a year. And I've done it for a number of years. And it'll also have, when I launched my book, Counting to God, I gave a talk at MIT, my old alma mater. And I think it was basically, and I can't prove this, but it might have been the first time anybody was ever invited to that kind of a level of an academic institution to present the scientific evidence for God. And there were very smart people in the audience, and a lot of them were so blind. And I find it astonishing that, people that are smart are blind. But, St. Paul wrote in his letter to the Romans, claiming to be wise, they became fools.
Amen.
That's still with us 2,000 years later.
Yeah. And the saying, none so blind as those who refuse to see.
They refuse to see. Well, it's there. So go to countingtogod.com if you want to learn more. Okay.
Thank you, Douglas. I want to get the middle name in it. Douglas William Ell. Doug as in Dig Doug. Doug Ell. Thank you so much for... I definitely going to want to have you back sometime because, again, 6 hours, 6 days, 6 months would only scratch the surface. Thank you for coming.
I would love to be back. Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
Take care. God bless. Hello, everyone. A brief video exclusive. And yes, the funky beret avatar effect. I'll say why in a minute, but I was just out at a restaurant and someone was talking to me about my show, and the topic of the two most popular episodes came up. Well, first, let me back up. In 2022, when I started the show, I did a show. There's a little bit of the video lag here because I think of the avatar special effect. But at any rate, where was I? 2022, I did an early sub-segment that was tacked onto some of the shows, the top 3 platforms my show was listened to. Back then, it was Buzzsprout, iHeartRadio, and Player FM. I've not bothered to look today in 2025 if, maybe another platform is more than iHeart or more than Player FM. But Buzzsprout certainly makes sense because that's where the show is actually housed, parked, servered, however you wish to say it. But it's carried via Buzzsprout. It goes out to 25 plus audio platforms, but to 5 video platforms: BitChute, Brighteon, Dailymotion out of France, hence being silly with the beret, Rumble, and YouTube. And surprisingly, YouTube isn't where my most views for my behind the scenes sneak peek and or video exclusive videos are seen. That's actually BitChute. At Dailymotion in France, sad to say, virtually nobody goes there, but I still put them there, hoping eventually maybe the videos will catch on and people start seeing them over in Europe via Dailymotion in France. At any rate, and of course, Europe, anywhere could see them on BitChute, Brighteon, Rumble, and YouTube. It's still a primarily audio platform across the 25 plus audio stations it's available. But the number one show I want to mention is Earth, Flat or Sphere with Flat Earth Dave. Now, it gets listened to a lot, but that's a show you really, really need to see the video, because Dave presents his evidence in form of pictures and things like that, that it's obviously better if you can see what he's presenting rather than listening to us try and explain what's being shown on the screen. But yeah, you can listen to it too. Flat Earth Dave been on many shows, so it's not like he's an exclusive to me. You can find him elsewhere, but that's the top downloaded or streamed on any and all platforms of my shows. My second most one, and a show that I don't know if I'm most proud of, but it's way up the list of what I'm really proud of, is What Color is the Sky Really? And if you pair it, well, it's blue. If you make that declarative statement, the sky is blue, exclamation point, no qualifiers, I have to ask, have you ever been out at night? Have you ever gone out of your house at night? Is the sky blue then? But so, yeah, both of those shows kind of having to do with science, not necessarily Christianity or politics, but what color of the sky is the sky really? If you're saying, well, I don't need to watch or listen to that show now because I kind of gave it away, you'd be wrong. It's kind of analogous, a bit of an example, a quasi-metaphor to set up and make another more important point. So, yes, you should tune in for or go to BitChute, Brighteon, Daily Motion, Rumble, or YouTube and see What Color is the Sky Really episode. And, of course, if you're on Buzzsprout, there's a send us a text. Send in your comments. Comment in a video. Please, I'd like some feedback. Also, if you're a regular, you know occasionally I do listener feedback shows. So unlike some, I really, really want your input. At any rate, I'm sure on the way home from the restaurant to here, there were other things floating in my mind I wanted to say, but that's the important things. Just something brief and short to the point. You got to see these. If this is your first opportunity coming across this show, you don't know what you're missing. Now, the What Color is the Sky episode is pretty much an exclusive. You're only going to get that talk here on Christitutionalist Politics Podcast. I've not appeared as a guest on any other show and discussed it. I think maybe I've mentioned it on Wham Radio as a caller here in Michigan, Wham Radio out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. I'm a regular caller. Occasionally I'll be a guest regarding one of my books. But at any rate, you're only really going to get that here. So please, and I hate to be one of those parrots, right? But, back to What Color is the Sky, right? If you automatically parrot, it's blue. Declarative statement, you've got to see the episode to get to the point of that. Well, where was I going? I've lost my train of thought now. I've thrown myself off the rails, but you don't know what you're missing. I get parrot, right? Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. As you may have heard me joke before, or if this is your first chance ever seeing anything about this show, I hate saying like, share, subscribe, but you know, being a podcaster, unfortunately, you gotta say that. Indeed, really, please like, share through Buzzsprout, subscribe, help keep the lights on around here, as the saying goes. Greatly appreciate it. Take care. God bless. Bonjour. Since I got the funky fake avatar beret hat on for folks that hopefully maybe will watch on Daily Motion in France this time. Take care. God bless. Love you all.
Joseph Leonard stand up for what is right. Loves God and shares his message every day and night. Believes in freedom and making his voice heard. Shared his message over all the earth. God loves you for all you do. Stand strong and God bless you.
In the heart of Wyandotte, he rose from the ashes with a voice like thunder that no one can clash with. Born in the summer of '62, a warrior spirit strong and true, with a pen as his sword and ideas ablaze. In the battle for truth, he's setting the stage. Joseph Leonard, hear the call of the brave, fighting for liberty, our rights to save. From the shadows of doubt, he's lighting the way. With honor and integrity, he'll never sway. In the realm of fiction, he weaves his art, a political thriller that tears you apart. Terror strikes echo, a warning to heed. In a world of chaos, he plants the seed. Cancer came knocking, but he stood tall, a survivor spirit ready to fall. Joseph Leonard, hear the call of the brave, fighting for liberty, our rights to save. From the shadows of doubt, he's lighting the way. With honor and integrity, you'll never sway. Podcasts are rolling, his voice rings clear. In a symphony of truth we gather near. Defending the Constitution, he leads the crowd. In the name of freedom, he stands proud. So raise up your voice, let this anthem ignite. For Joseph Leonard, let's stand and unite.
Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help. Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Thank you for having tuned in for Christitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Christitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.